Okay, Council President, you're all set, sir.
Okay, I'd like to call the June 21st, 2021 special meeting to order. Item number 1, acceptance of meeting minutes, discussion and possible vote. With regard to the acceptance of meeting minutes from the meetings of May 19th, May 24th, May 26th, May 27th, and June 1st, 2021. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Motion been made by Councilman Laporte. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Amorigi. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed? The ayes hear it. Okay, item number 2, final budget hearing FY 2021-2022. The proposed budget was advertised in the Providence Journal by the Finance Office for a hearing on this date. It's been brought to our attention over the last few minutes that there may have to be a few changes to this budget, especially pertaining to the raises to the council, that those will not go into effect until the next election cycle. So if I could have a total of the money that was allocated for that. I don't have that in front of me.
Well, it'd be 6,000 times 7. So it'd be,
42,000.
right.
I apologize, I couldn't hear. What was the?
42,000.
Yeah, but do we get paid 8 flat, or is it 88 or 8? What is it?
I think it's 8.
8 flat.
Council
Eight
President,
thousand.
Finance Director with her hand raised to bring her in.
Yep, go ahead.
Please.
Go ahead, Maria.
Go ahead, Maria.
Can you hear me, Council?
Yeah.
Yes.
The total was 44,800.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to entertain a motion to move the 44,800 into our council's contingency fund.
I'll move.
Motion's been made by Councilman Martone. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Famagetti. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
So that line item, I don't think should change then. So that should be, because it stayed in the same council appropriation, right?
Right. The money stays the same. The bottom line stays the same.
Just say, excuse me for a second. I'm just checking it on my phone just to make sure. Okay, I mean, Maria, the bottom line stays the same, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then I'd like to make 2 additions with that. Putting $4,000 over to our legal counsel's budget and $2,000 to the town clerk's position for the 6,000.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again? Mr. President?
4,000 to the legal counsel, 2,000 to the town clerk's position.
That would come out of that contingency?
Yes.
I'll make the motion, Mr. President, that we take 4,000 out of our contingency line item and reallocate it to legal. You want to do them one at a time? For our
Yeah.
legal counsel, line item.
Okay, a motion's been made by Councilman Famagetti. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bacala. And then, is there a second motion?
Yeah, there's a second motion to take $2,000 out of our contingency line item and allocate that to our town clerk's line item.
Okay, a motion's been made by Councilman Famagetti. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
By Councilman Martone. Okay, is there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the final budget for FY 21-22.
So moved.
Who made that motion? I apologize.
Medina.
Laportio.
Motion's been made by Councilman Laportio. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bacala. All those in favor?
The Council President,
Yep.
before you take that, Maria's got her hand raised. We may have to do an additional motion.
Okay. Go ahead, Maria.
Okay, I'm sorry. The town council bottom line has changed because you're allocating 2,000 to the town clerk's budget now. So
Okay,
your
you're-
town council budget will be now 192, 219.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve 192, 219 for the town council budget?
So moved.
Motion been made by Councilman Martone, seconded by Councilman Bacala. Is there a second? And Maria, can I have a final for the town clerk's budget?
Town clerk's budget will be 231, 464.
Okay, and do I have a motion to approve 231, 464 for the town clerk?
So moved.
Motion been made by Councilman Laportio. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bacala. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. And finally, a motion to approve the FY 21-22 budget.
So moved.
Motion been made by Councilman Martone. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Laportio. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. While the mayor's here, I'm gonna move up item number 22, Ocean State Academy Learning Center LLC, discussion and possible vote regarding a request from Ocean State Academy Learning Center LLC to operate a school at 1135 Middle Spring Avenue, the former Maryville School. Is the mayor on here? I can't see.
I believe he is. I'm trying to find him right now. Go ahead, Mayor, you can speak.
Mr. President,
Yep, go ahead.
members of the council, we received a communication, excuse me, we sent you a copy of the site school on Merrill Spring, Old Maryville School, that they will be making their final monthly payment, so to say, and I want to say it's the middle of July. And at the meantime, we did receive a call from another organization that Mrs. Miles heads there, a very reputable organization that would like to retain that lease for the same amount of money. All particulars in the lease will continue, and all their obligations to the town, being what I know of that school, I think it would be the right thing for us to continue that lease and enjoy the monetary gain of revenue for the town for the next, I want to say would be 9 years, 8.5 years. So that being said, Mr. Chairman, we need your permission, council's permission, to enter into a new lease with the, I want to say it's Ocean State. You have it in front of you.
Ocean State Academy of Learning.
Yeah, Ocean State Academy there. So I think that's basically what it is. I would hate for us to lose that revenue that we count on every year from that facility.
Is there any questions for the mayor on that?
Council President?
Go ahead, Mario. Councilman.
Yeah, Mayor, are they going to be serving the same population as the old school?
I want to say that they may be servicing just a few more students, Mario. To give you the exact number, I don't have that before me, but they visited the academy. Well, it is an academy. They visited the old Maryville school. They like the facility. They can make it work. So again, rather than us putting a sign up for lease, I think we should, based on what I know of this organization, do business with them.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
One question, Mayor. I know you alluded to it, the same terms of the lease apply. I know site understood that the Knights of Columbus for events uses that upper parking lot. Any issues that you foresee with that going forward?
No, not at all. In fact, for the amount of times that the Knights of Columbus use that parking lot, Steph, I don't think that would even be an issue. I don't think they really have use for that. I will double check that. And as far as the lease, I would leave the paperwork and up to both Anthony Galone and Mark Welch to put this together.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Councilman, I did speak with Attorney Galone this afternoon, and we went over he's gonna use the same terms of the lease and so forth. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Councilman Di Lorenzo. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Councilman Martone. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, item number 3, resolution 21-004. That a request be made to our General Assembly to take the necessary steps to amend Article 2, Chapter 1, Section 4, 2-1-4 entitled Compensation. So I have a motion to pass resolution 21-004 to the General Assembly.
So moved.
Motion been made by Councilman Martone. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bacala. Any questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. I am going to skip ahead. We have a little bit of heavy lifting to do to get this over with. Item number 21, Hollywood Lounge LLC, DBA Hollywood Lounge. Summons was delivered to Angel Matos, registered agent for Hollywood Lounge LLC, DBA Hollywood Lounge, located at 1759 Mineral Spring Avenue, North Providence, Rhode Island, for a formal hearing and possible vote with regard to the operation of the business and possible action concerning the BV liquor and entertainment licenses for this establishment. As you all are aware, last month, we've had several neighbors put this matter on the agenda. I know several council people have been in discussion with the neighbors. I believe they have legal representation here tonight.
Mr. President?
Councilman?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask to be excused from this as a conflict of interest that I have with this.
Sure. Just Troy, note for the record that Councilman Laportio will be recusing.
Will do.
Okay. And so the legal representation for Hollywood Lounge, can you just please state your name for the record?
I don't think he's been let in yet.
Yeah, sir, he's in.
Okay.
He's on mute. There you go.
No, Ralph, the counsel for them is Nick Heeman. He's got his hand raised.
Go ahead, Mr. Heeman.
Just state your name for the record.
Thank you, Mr. President. Attorney Nicholas Heeman, Darrow Everett, Providence, Rhode Island, on behalf of the Hollywood Lounge.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Heeman. So I believe we have several neighbors here tonight. We've heard most of the testimony. Councilman Bacala has been pretty upfront on the issue. Councilman, do you want to just give a brief overview of what you've heard from the residents and kind of explain to Mr. Heeman?
Yeah. I mean, in talking to a bunch of them, and I told them I would be lead on this tonight, but if they want to say something, they're more than willing, but I think I can cover it all. But basically, everything outside in the parking lot, as far as parking issues, people doing things in their cars that they're not supposed to be doing, trash being thrown out, the hours that it's being done, the noise complaints that are being done, driving down the street, turning around, people urinating outside on people's front lawns, things and everything. Kind of, you get the gist where I'm going with all this. I mean, nothing's been vandalized to this point or anything like that, that we know of, but we're trying to stop that. But it's becoming more of a, you know, a quality of life issue for all the residents that are around there. I mean, and also being close to that, you know, not only the councilman too, but I'm also, you know, a father and a constituent and and represent a lot of people. So I've gotten more phone calls on this than anything else than probably, you know, for my time on the council. And I've been in constant contact with one of them, Mrs. Taglione, Mr. Manzo, Mr. Abid. I mean, pretty much everybody around the neighborhood. So we need to come up with some kind of a solution here that we can together. I mean, we want to be business friendly, but we also need to make sure that, you know, like I said, the quality of life for the neighbors around there, it's somewhat a little bit peaceful, especially at certain times of the night. I mean, 8 o'clock at night is one thing, but you start getting into the wee hours, we're starting to see the people there till like 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30, and it's becoming an issue. So.
Thank you, Councilman. Briefly, like I said, last meeting, we've heard all the testimony from the neighbors. Is there anyone that did not speak last month, that wants to add anything? Briefly, please, before I allow Mr. Heeman to speak.
No one has their hand raised. So, oh, yeah, one person, stand by.
Okay.
Ellis Obed, go ahead and speak.
Go ahead, sir. Just state your name for the record.
My name is Kathleen Toledo. I live at 20 Rockwell. I just was questioning if they are complying with fire laws. It seems to me there's an awful lot of influx of clients going in and out of the building, and it's not a large building. The parking lot behind them should be sufficient for what they can hold. And I don't understand. We've never had this kind of trouble before. We've had lounges there for years. I just don't want to make sure they're following the fire laws, the amount of people in there.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, I just brought in the fire marshal for you.
Okay, go ahead. State your name for the record, John.
Fire Marshal John Horan. I've been out to the establishment on a couple of occasions. I did forward a letter to the council with regards to my findings. As far as overcrowding, that has not been the case when I've been there. Obviously, I can't speak for the entire time the business is open, but it certainly was not overcrowded when I was there. They are complying with all of the fire laws. They had a couple of small issues which they've taken care of, and those were my findings. So yes, they are compliant with the fire laws.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Attorney Heeman.
I got a question, Dino.
Oh, Councilman.
I'm looking at before Mr. Heeman speaks. I'm looking at the papers that were received by every town councilman. I don't know if you can see that, but do you see how thick that is? There's probably 17, 18 pages of 3 or 4 between D runs and complaints. So when you do speak, can you please give us an idea about this? Thank you.
Thank you. Good. Mr. Heeman.
Sure. So, Mr. President, just to address the Councilman Di Lorenzo's question, just because it was the most immediate question, I can't comment, Councilman, on them because I don't have that stack of paper.
Okay.
However, I've been at this long enough and done enough of these to imagine that they're most likely complaints of people being loud when they're returning to their cars, people not parking where they're supposed to park, people that are, public urination, noise complaints. These are problems that I've worked with clients to address. Particularly, it becomes difficult in areas like Mineral Spring Avenue, where you have a commercial corridor that immediately abuts residential areas. And there are a couple of ways of trying to handle these things, and sometimes successful with clients and working it out. And sometimes, the clients don't heed the advice that we give, and a business at war with its neighborhood is a business that's not going to be in business for very long, one way or another. It catches up with everybody. So in addressing parking, trash, noise, public urination, the first thing I would start with is a new security plan. And that security plan, I have a template. I've been involved in advising restaurants, lounges, and hospitality businesses for many years. I have a base security plan that, when followed, takes care of these problems. And part of that is making sure that the security assists people in moving them along so that they're not lingering in the parking lot, not lingering on the side streets, getting in their cars and moving along. That when people are leaving and going to their cars, that's where they go. They don't wander into someone's front yard or side yard, and either break bottles or trespass onto people's property. The security can only do so much, but part of it is being a good witness and knowing who does it, alerting police that something like that is going on, and remembering who does it so that if they try to come back after they cause a disturbance, that they're not allowed back into the establishment. With trash, as I understand it, and I'm familiar with the front, at least front portion of the establishment. I travel in that area quite a bit. I live in the general area between Providence and North Providence, but at least as far as I understand, there's some issues with behind the building, and talking with some of the council people about this, where people have broken glass, and that's an issue. And then also along the side of the building as well. We can use our staff to make sure that, at the beginning and end of every evening, that any debris is swept up, taken care of, and the neighborhood is treated with respect. If we can't control people, we can certainly make sure that the messes are getting cleaned up. I also understand that they've recently started working with a security company over the last 3 weeks. So I don't know if it's been any better or any worse or indifferent. But that security company has started working with them. It's something that they've recently begun doing. I can work closely with them to make sure that they are aware of what the plan needs to be and how to move people along. A lot of times places, when they close, as soon as they close, they send their employees home, they send their security home. Meanwhile, the people are still lingering. Warwick, I think, has an ordinance that requires security to remain at least a half hour after closing. I usually advise all clients to keep their security on the premises for at least a half an hour after closing to make sure that people have moved along, or if people haven't moved along, to report them to the appropriate authorities. Now, I don't know, I assume that you're also struggling based on the one woman's call that I did get to hear today. Everything else has been told to me either through the council president or Councilman Martone. But I assume that perhaps people aren't just parking in the parking lot, they're parking in the surrounding residential areas. And that's always the toughest part to deal with, because a security company doesn't have the authority to move people along and tell them they can't park there. But if you have no parking zones, if you have residential parking zones, if you have signs that people are not adhering to, the security can certainly alert the North Providence police. And I imagine after getting a couple of tickets or potentially having a vehicle towed, that sort of takes care of that issue. But all they can really do in an instance like that is to tell people not to park there, to take down plates and inform people of who is parking there. But they certainly don't have to throw their hands up and do nothing about it. As it pertains to noise, I've worked with an engineer over the years. Eric Wishart is his name. We first worked together at the Cellos by the water in Warwick. And part of the issue there is, if you've ever been there, they have live bands. Well, that sound was traveling to the other side of the bay or the marina there, and it was affecting people over a mile away just because of the way the water traveled. And we worked with Eric to get that under control. So if noise is an issue, usually it comes from the bass being played. Eric can usually walk through an establishment and do 2 or 3 things cost effectively that can help mitigate that. And Councilman Bacala, I understand this is in your neighborhood, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm happy to get my cell phone number to you so that if there are issues, you can contact me directly. And, you know, I try to get a firsthand look at some of these things. So, you know, I'm happy to get that to you and I can work closely with the client. At least I've talked to the manager, Frank Matos. He says he's in touch with a couple of people on the council. But I'm happy to give that to you so that I can work with you in real time to try to make your constituents' issues be resolved in a timely fashion. And I've got better things to do than to try to solve a problem and then come before all of you and just keep making excuses. So once I get involved in that level, the proactive level, which I appreciate the opportunity to do, because often it's just a hearing, a revocation, an appeal, and then it gets overturned. And nobody ever gets on the same page on those things. So when we take the time to try to work proactively, if a client just ignores it, and I'm not saying these people will, they're very much interested in protecting their investment by working with your community. Makes it easy for me to say, look, I told you what to do and you're not doing it. What more do you want me to do? It's harder to defend it. So I always like to try to work to resolve the issues because I know, you know, this council and the town of North Providence is very pro-business, particularly over the last year where a lot of communities made it harder for businesses to operate. I think North Providence certainly was one of the places that tried to make it easier. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here on behalf of my client today. I've heard what you've said. It's going to, I would imagine, be a work in progress. You know, those are the ideas I have just based on doing this for 8 years and dealing with problems like this in Providence, in Cranston, in Johnston, and Warwick. You know, and not to say those are the silver bullets, everything's unique, but I think certainly that would at least lay out a path forward for us to try to work on resolving it and then come back before you for a review to see how things are going.
Thank you, Mr. Heeman. Does anybody have any questions for Attorney Heeman?
Council
No,
President.
I did just have one. I would like to reach out to him. And as far as the security, I'm sure he's already had security. It's been inside. I think more of the problems are on the outside than it's on the inside. So
Yeah.
people are leaving and not going there. So no matter what plan we come up with, it's got to incorporate, you know, both of them. So this way here, we know there's attention. There is on Rockwell Street, there is an ordinance that goes back to 2003. There's supposed to be residential parking only on both sides. I'm not even sure if the signs are still up there. It might be on one side, but I did look into a couple of things and the ordinance says no parking on both sides. So even that is an issue with parking on that street as well. But I think if we come up with something, you know, mutual, you know, I don't think the constituents can see that I'll probably make, you know, a good educated guess as far as the plan and the one we enact. And as long as we enact on it and it goes good, I don't see there being a problem. So.
Excuse me, Council President.
Yeah,
The Colonel has his hands raised. I'll be bringing him in.
all right. Councilman Matone, you had a question and then I'll turn it over to the Colonel.
Yeah, more of a statement. I've worked with Attorney Heeman enough to have no doubt that he will provide his clients with the appropriate advice. But I do see that his client is here. So there were just a couple things that I noticed that I just want to make sure it's on the record. One is it does look like they're doing hookah at that location. So I would expect that they understand their requirements for hookah and they satisfy those requirements, including smoke filtration and that kind of thing. The other thing is I noticed in one of the fire inspections, it said that the kitchen was not operational. So that's, and Attorney Heeman knows this, that the kitchen has to be operational for the entire time they're open and serving alcohol. So, you know, and again, these are just, I'm not asking for, you know, any kind of penalty or punishment, but these are just things that are kind of rules that are easy to follow. And, you know, I wouldn't expect them to be violated. And the other thing is that I don't see any information in the police logs, but I believe I remember hearing some commentary with regard to people being in the location after hours. And what I would just you know, say for the benefit of the business owner, everybody has to be out of location a half hour after closing time. So in North Providence, that's 1 o'clock, which means everybody has to be out of the location at 1:30. So if that it's a problem, I would expect that you just close your business earlier for you to be out at 1:30. You know, that's something that everybody across the state has to follow. Most businesses can get that done. And so one thing that I fully expect, and it's not just for this establishment, but for all establishments across, you know, the town, is that there shouldn't be anybody in these locations after 1:30. 1:30 is the cutoff time, no employees, nobody cleaning, 1:30 is the cutoff time. So you got to make sure that you do whatever it is you need to do to ensure that all your employees are out of the establishment. There are a lot of other businesses that are able to get that done. And the reason I say that is because then what happens is police go in or they see people there at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And the business is saying, well, they're just employees. The police, they don't know what's going on. The neighbors don't know what's going on. It causes massive confusion and it's a problem. So that's something that's really easy to take care of. And unfortunately, it's on the business to make sure that they close their establishment at whatever time is necessary for them to be out of that building at 1:30. And the reason I kind of stressing it is that's something that I think causes problems in that neighbor relationship. And kind of one of the easiest things to do is just make sure you close on time, because people have an expectation that these businesses are closing at a certain time. And when there are people inside those businesses after that, it leads the neighbors to think that someone's taking advantage or something like that. So please, do whatever you can to make sure that that's complied with.
Chief Ruggiero?
Yes, good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Thank you for this time. So I had the opportunity to actually visit Rockwell Street, Waldo Street, and Davis Street on a early weekend morning. And to be quite honest, to see what was left behind was disturbing as a parent with young children playing in that area. And Mr. Hemmond, I hear what you're saying in regards to the security, but if you could just pass along to that team, they actually need to get out of the back parking lot and go down Rockwell Street and ensure that the patrons leaving the establishment are doing the right thing. I may also suggest we've had success in other establishments in town with valet parking. If Hollywood would be open to possibly looking into that, it would obviously control where the vehicles are being parked. Next question, I'm sure, is going to be where would those vehicles get parked? That is the $1 million question. There's not really many areas in that location that can afford that many vehicles. But again, in talking with the residents along Rockwell, I mean, they've purchased cones themselves and put them in front of their houses, in front of their driveways, and the patrons of Hollywood are just literally running them over or grabbing them and throwing them either back onto the lawns of the residents or onto the street. We've, as an agency here, picked up our presence in the area. And I believe Councilman Bacala had mentioned the either residential parking or no parking. So as you're coming in from Mineral Spring, the right is residential parking, the left is no parking. So the problems we're running into, are we now ticketing residential folks that live on the street? My response has been ticket them all. And if they live on Rockwell, they can always come here to the station and have that ticket taken care of as far as them being a resident. But if Mr. Hammond, again, if you could just focus on this security team actually getting out of the driveway, so to speak, in the parking lot, and really pushing to the folks leaving. There's kids in the area, there's dogs in the area, there's car alarms that have been going off. Just to have some respect for the folks there. And again, if they could look into the valet parking, that may be helpful also.
Absolutely, Colonel. We've dealt with that before in the sense that one of the things that often we recommend in the security of these establishments is that your security team, generally you don't have a lot of people in a place like this. You might have one or two. Usually the rule of thumb is 1 per 35 occupants. But obviously when the situation calls for it, you amp it up. But one of the things I like to say is that the security follows the crowd outside. So as the night draws to an end, 12 o'clock, every place clears out a little bit different, right? But Mr. Martone addressed the situation of it's closing time, the lights are on, and you're sort of pushing people out the door, but figuratively speaking. When that's what's going on, the security has got to follow that crowd out the door and then into the other areas where the cars are parking. It's a common problem, and it's dealt with in that way. Then, other things you can do as an owner of a business is you can put some signage up in your establishment saying, please refrain from parking on such and such a street. The conscientious person will adhere to that. The person who's going to be a jerk and break a bottle in the street is probably not going to adhere to that. And it's a multi-pronged approach, but we could certainly pay extra attention to that, Colonel. And I would also, usually I suggest to establishments that when they open, if you're dealing with these issues in the beginning, that they do sort of a walkthrough with the police, whether it be concerns about access. Sometimes people are concerned about people getting into a place after it closes. In this instance, I think the more crucial thing is understanding the neighborhood environment that they're working in and where the problems are and what the strategies might be in moving people along to do that. So I'm sure that they would be more than happy to work with whoever your, I'm not familiar enough to know with how North Providence structures their department, whether they're a precinct commanders, neighborhood commanders, local patrol people that work that shift regularly, but to put a face, at least on both sides of that, so that they know if someone's not moving along, who they can call, who they can have contact with. And I think build that trust is always critical. We can all work together, not to tax your resources, but obviously, you guys are going to get that call anyways, might as well be while it's occurring.
Mr. President, if I may. You just hit on something I was going to ask you, Attorney Heeman, about taxing our resources. I'm looking at this pamphlet that we got of all the stuff that's on there, that's been going on there. There are 35, I may have counted wrong, could be less, one or two less, or one or two more, D runs, which means that we're taking some patrol officers off what they should be doing, checking on this place because there are issues there. So you really are somewhat taxing our resources. Just a thought.
Yeah. No, I'm cognizant of it, Councilman. I don't have a time machine to go back and change the circumstances that get us here. All
Understood.
I can do is, listen to what you guys are having to listen to and try to come up with ways to solve it in a way that, doesn't put everyone in an adversarial proceeding. So it's a point well taken. You don't want to be wasting time and wasting resources. But when you have commerce, when you have hospitality related commerce, sometimes these are the things you got to deal with. And these are problems that are not uncommon, and they're problems that can be hopefully resolved. Can't always make everybody happy, but I think you guys will see the reasonable efforts that can be made and are going to be made that will be done to try to do right by your constituents.
Okay, what I would like to see happen here is I'd like to, before I take any follow-up questions or last questions, I'd like to entertain a motion to continue this matter to the August hearing for review in August at our August council meeting. And in the meantime, within the next week or so, myself and Councilman Bacala will meet with Attorney Heeman at the establishment and go over this security plan you intend to put in place. And, we'll review it in August. See that, and if something comes up in the meantime, we would have to call a special meeting, so be it. So before I take that motion, is there any follow-up questions for the council members, for Attorney Heeman?
President Audiel?
Yes.
Yes, sir. If I may, please, can the North Providence Police Department please be present for that meeting?
Yes, thank you, Colonel. I was going to include you in the motion as well. Thank you.
Please. Thank you.
And if possible, the fire department as well.
Yep, thank you, Marshal Horn. And Ralph, is there any questions from the public?
Currently, no hands raised, sir.
Okay, so in the form of a motion, I'd like to entertain a motion to continue this matter to the August council meeting. for review?
So moved.
Motion
So
been made by Councilman Bacala. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilman Martone. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. And I would like to entertain a motion to set up a meeting within the next week or two. I'll have the clerk set up a date with myself, Councilman Bacala, Chief Ruggiero, or a representative from the police department, and Fire Marshal Horn, for a meeting to review the security plan.
So
That's-
moved.
Motion's been made by Councilman Bacala and seconded by Councilman Martone. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Mr. President, may I just ask, when is the August meeting so I can make sure I keep it clear?
It is August, I'll tell you right now. It would be August 3rd.
Okay,
Okay,
okay. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for your time.
okay.
Thank you.
Item number 20, 787 Restaurant and Lounge LLC, DBA 787 Restaurant and Lounge. Summons was delivered to Liz Vasquez, registered agent for 787 Restaurant and Lounge LLC, DBA 787 Restaurant and Lounge, located at 1270 Mineral Spring Avenue, North Providence, Rhode Island, for a formal hearing and possible vote with regard to the operation of the business and possible action concerning the BV liquor and entertainment licenses for this establishment. Once again, I'll reiterate the fact, unlike the previous hearing, this establishment has been on our agenda several times. We've heard a lot of testimony from neighbors, a lot of consistent testimony from neighbors. It's actually quite disappointing that this is on the agenda again, that we had to deliver a summons for a hearing. But with that being said, is Ms. Vasquez here to represent 787, or is there an attorney present?
She is here, and there's an attorney with their hand raised, Daniel Calabro. Would that be, Ms. Vasquez, would that be your attorney?
Yes.
All right, I'll move that.
Okay, Attorney Calabro, can you just state your name for the record?
Hold on, sir, I'm bringing him in now for you. Go ahead, Mr. Calabro.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Mr. President.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Sure. Okay, everyone has the reports in front of them. Everyone's heard the complaints. I'll just ask the council members if they'd like to ask. Will you be doing all the speaking for Ms. Vasquez?
I will, Mr. President, yes.
If they have any questions for Attorney Calabro. Councilman Di Lorenzo?
Well, I'm gonna do the same thing with you I just did to the other guy. Take a look. It's thick. It's been going on since I believe January. And also, again, D-runs taxing the resources of our town because of the noise, because of the neighbors. So those are some of the questions that I have for you, Attorney Calabro. I'd like to know what you're gonna do about it and how we're gonna take care of it.
Thank you, Councilman Di Lorenzo, for the question. I don't, like Mr. Heeman, I don't have those in front of me, and I think my client didn't get them till the weekend. So she did send me some photographs of them. I was able to look at some of the pictures, but I don't have them all. So I can't respond to all of them, but
That's okay, but in general.
yes, sir. I believe that in speaking to my client, some of the concerns from the constituents were problems in the back lot, parking of the vehicles, parking on the street, security. So I believe that my client's taken measures to address those.
Noise.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
There's also noise.
Correct. And my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that there have been officers that have gone out there in the evening and taken decibel readings, and that those decibel readings were all within the allotted limits. My client did reduce the noise level as per the town's request. She did close the back lot because I know that was one of the concerns. She also brought a valet, and one of the recommendations that, I don't know if it was the colonel or the council just made about with the prior establishment, getting a valet, she took that upon herself to get a valet so that people are coming down, getting into their cars and then just leaving. They're not going into the back lot and parking. They're not parking on the street. As the council is well aware, because I believe that the council implemented it, she does have details there, I believe Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evening as well, when they can be filled, obviously. She does also have a security team. She has security cameras. So if there's any other issues specifically that you'd like me to address, I will gladly address those. But I believe that she's trying to be proactive and taking every step that she can to try to address the concerns of the council and the constituents.
Attorney Calabro, if I could, very recently, in fact, over the past day, one of the constituents in the neighborhood said that there was quite a bit of verbal noise after closing, and that is not monitored by a decibel meter. However, it's still disruptive to the people living there. This is also an ongoing issue, and it appears that we're at a stalemate with that. 1 week it doesn't happen, 1 week it does, and this inconsistency is proving to be very, very uncomfortable for the people that live in the town right behind this. How are we going to address this?
We can address that, and I will make the same exact offer that Attorney Heeman made to the council. I will give the president my cell phone number, also agree to meet out there at the facility with the council members, with the president, fire marshal, police, with the colonel, to address all of these issues. But we will also draft a plan, and we will draft a plan to make sure that everyone is out of there on closing time. I know that when the detail officers are there, I know this is happening. If it's not happening when the detail officers aren't there, I'll have to discuss that with the client. But we can address that as well in this meeting and address all of these concerns that the council has.
Yeah, it seems like, when the cat's away, the mice, are going to play, and we really don't want to have that type of scenario. We want to trust our business clientele. We don't want to hurt them. We want to see them succeed, but we also want to have our constituents in the town have a peace and comfort in their own homes. And when they want to go to sleep at a reasonable hour, not have that.
Mr. Calabro.
Mr. Clower, I think the underlying issue here is there's been a misrepresentation of what the establishment was supposed to be. They came before the North Providence Town Council, I believe in October of 2019. I don't have it exactly in front of me. And in her testimony, she said she would be running a low-key restaurant, so to speak. And, through the social media posts, we get them advertising 3 DJs a night. There's hookah. We know what's going on. It's a full-blown nightclub. And we just simply can't have that in this town. When we issued the license, as you know, we're very business friendly in this town. We issued it under the purview that this was going to be a restaurant. We gave them the entertainment license, thinking it was going to be a restaurant, a laid back lounge. I think I'm quoting her exactly as like a laid back, low key lounge. This clearly isn't what's going on. So I'm going to turn it over to Councilman Famagetti and Councilman Amorigi. They represent the district. They hear from the neighbors every day, and they're trying their best to work with the neighbors. So maybe they can inform you on what's being said. Well,
if I can address some of your concerns, Mr. President, I understand that you're calling it a nightclub, but it is a restaurant. My client dumped over $100,000 into the kitchen. No one there can drink unless they eat. Everyone has to sit at a table. Yes, they do have music playing. But it is operating as a restaurant, as she explained that it would be. Yes, they do have hookah. My understanding in speaking to my client is that that was presented to the board prior to getting the license. You can correct me if I'm wrong, that she advised me that she said that they were going to have hookah. That's what I'm told. I wasn't there, obviously, when she was before you.
That's fine. That's understandable.
Mr. President, if
Yep.
I may, Stefano, I'm sorry, just because I have a quick question, if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to ask you a question here, and here it is. Is this establishment a restaurant or a nightclub?
It is a restaurant.
It is a restaurant.
Yes,
So
sir.
then if it is a restaurant, do you really need at this point an entertainment license?
Well, at the time that she applied for the entertainment license, it was because she was going to have DJs and she was going to have live bands. She does not have the live bands. She would like the ability to have DJs there and music there, if she so chooses. So I guess on that respect, yes, it would need to be she would like the entertainment license.
Sorry, Stefano.
No, it's okay. So, Mr. Calabro, this is a, Kenny, you're trying to talk, but I don't
Can't hear you, Kenny.
hear you. Okay.
Kenny.
I think that means go ahead.
Kenny, you're on mute. I can't hear you either.
Okay. All right, so again, you're asserting this is a restaurant, correct?
Yes, sir.
There are a lot of restaurants in town, and I would say 99% don't have these issues. So what exactly is the difference? I mean, we're arguing based upon a definition that you say it's one thing and then I say it's another thing. And I think that the flavor of the community is that it is the thing that I'm saying it is, and what the council's saying is it is a nightclub. We have many restaurants in North Providence. I don't see the same issues of people spilling out into the street and having to have multiple cruisers go to the establishment to disperse people. That is indicative of a nightclub, not a restaurant, because I don't know what types of food service is going on at 1:30.
Well, again, I think part of the problem is I think they're very busy. And I think that's part of the problem is that they do have a lot of customers there. But I'd be happy to share with the council, and keep it under seal, the amount that my client is spending on food every single month to show you that she's operating as a restaurant. I'd be more than willing to do that. We have a full operating kitchen. Like I told you, she spent over $100,000 in refitting the kitchen. If she was a bar and a nightclub, she would have never spent that money to do those upgrades.
I don't doubt that as part of the business is food service, but you're also exhibiting the characteristics of a club, i.e. you have a security detail, you have a required police detail, you have a valet service. And on top of that, I've seen videos of cruisers coming at 1:30 on a weekend to help disperse a crowd. And we've talked about it. You're on a Mineral Spring Avenue corridor. You're bordering residential neighborhoods. You're spilling into the residential neighborhoods across the street. And I know this because I hear it every weekend. But if this is truly a restaurant, I would expect the other restaurants in town to be operating in this fashion as well. I understand they're busy and I hope they make as much money as they can without impacting the neighbors. And as Council President Nordiello said, this is something that we saw coming. And we asked if this was a nightclub because we were aware that you're bordering upon neighborhoods. And we knew that this was going to happen to the neighborhoods. Now, I'll use the term misrepresentation because I think that's exactly what it is. It's a misrepresentation. We would not have given these licenses if we were told, you know what, we're going to have a late crowd here. We're going to have music going. But we saw this coming. We tried to keep a leash on it, and now we're here again. Every month we talk about this. So I don't mean to take up your time. I'm sure you'd like to say something.
Well, I mean, I'd be willing to also share videos of the inside of the restaurant with the council as well to see what's going on inside. to dispel these thoughts that this is operating as a nightclub, because it's not.
What time's the kitchen close?
The kitchen closes, Liz would have to tell me exactly. I did ask her that question, but I believe that they close at either 12 or 12:30. I'm not 100% positive.
What's the capacity?
I don't know what the capacity is.
Mr. Calabro,
I
if
do-
I could, there was a, there-
Councilman LaPorte,
oh, yep.
Councilman Marigi has his hand up.
Oh,
And
okay, sorry.
Can you hear me or no?
Now we can, go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Calabro, I know you're taking it on the chin a little bit here, and I don't want to relive every single thing that's happened in the last year and a half, but I did want to speak earlier. I was having some technical difficulties. I'm particularly disturbed by this because from day one, myself and the community police liaison at the time, Lieutenant Michael Tavarozzi, we took time out of our days to meet with, well, actually Liz blew us off twice, but she sent her mother and then Liz joined by phone. From day one, she has asserted things that have not been true. She's made promises that she's never kept. And I think what you're going to find as an attorney, I'm an attorney, Stefano's an attorney, sometimes our clients aren't fully forthright with us. And something that the council president didn't add when he spoke was that we asked, or not asked, we mandated that 787 have security from the day that we issued the license. They did not implement any sort of security until we forced them to get a police detail this year. So the things that she's been telling you, you may want to maybe look at some of the meeting minutes from the last year and a half. And, you know, numerous times we've asked her we've suggested nicely, if you do A, B, and C, the neighbors won't have a problem with you. And often her response is something along the lines of, oh, I didn't know that, or I didn't think about that. For example, the issue with her staff staying sometimes till 3, 4 in the morning. When it was brought to her attention at 2 consecutive meetings, Councilman Martone, who was also an attorney, informed Liz that people have to vacate the premises within a half hour of closing time. Both times she said that she had never been told that before, but you know as well as I do as an attorney, when you take on a license, you have to be informed of the rules. And so you can't plead ignorance and continue to plead ignorance and then do nothing to address it. I'm getting reports on a daily basis that her staff and who knows who else is still staying there till 2, 3 in the morning. Yes, sometimes the police ask them to leave before they leave the premises, but if the police aren't there, it's not happening. And that's where a lot of these issues are coming. It's coming from the blatant disregard for state and local law and ordinances. And they're just essentially giving us the good old runarounds. You know, every time we have them here, they tell us they're going to do something, they do the opposite. And here we are, as Council President Aureola said, here we are close to 2 years later, we're literally still having these same conversations. So I know you're going to do your job and I hope to be there for those meetings. But what I would suggest is that anything that is going to be suggested as a plan be done both immediately and with your follow-up. Because if somebody is not holding their hands, I just fear as though it's not going to get done. And best of luck to you.
Thank you. And I can appreciate that, Councilman Amorigi. And like I said, we will do it immediately. And like I said, too, I mean, we can provide the council with, if that would ease some of this concern, provide the council with, videos, exterior and interior videos, so that you can see that the client is complying, and go from there, so that we can prove to you, without you having to send a police officer out there and, like Councilman DiLorenzo had stated earlier, wasting the town's, sending expenses to the town and wasting their efforts and police officers' time. I can provide that to the council on weekly or bi-weekly or monthly or whatever satisfies the council's basis to show. I can send these videos to show the council that we are in compliance with what the council is asking.
If that's what it takes, at least initially, I mean, I don't want to be the sole arbiter of this. And I know especially Councilman Faniletti has taken a lot more of the calls recently than I have, because I've become so disgusted by the process that I've literally, to some degree, thrown my hands up, but I'm open to all suggestions. So hopefully we can get that together sooner than later.
Councilman LaPorte out of statement, Councilman DiLorenzo, and then I want to hear from Fire Marshal John Horan.
Thank you, Council President. Attorney Calabro, you and your new representation for this client, you say that you will prove to us what you had just said. I'm having a difficult time with that because none of that has happened yet with several layers of security. In fact, so I can't say that I'm in favor of saying, hey, let's just keep letting this thing ride. We need to really have a definitive way of monitoring this in the imminent future, because this thing is going on and on and on. Every month it's on our agenda. Every week we're having different calls. The police department either has to go by there for some reason or another. We're getting calls from the constituents constantly. You can put $2 million into a restaurant and still serve an awful lot of alcohol and mask it as a restaurant, but it's a nightclub. There's music being played there. You can go to Spain Restaurant on Reservoir Avenue. That's a very, very busy restaurant. I don't see police details having to go out to Spain Restaurant and have security go there and break up crowds at night. We're not looking for that in this town. We need to have this thing curtailed.
And I agree with you, and I don't think that should be going on in any town. And that's why, I mean, we can start next week I can start downloading these videos and getting you videos to show compliance. We could start that immediately to show you that compliance is being had. I mean, I'm sure that some of the calls, I'm sure it's not all of them, but I'm sure many of the calls are, police officers reporting out there and there's nothing found. I'm sure that happens frequently because the neighbors are upset for whatever they're upset about. And I can understand that. But we'll do everything in our power to prove to you that they are in compliance. I believe, there's detail officers there on I think Friday, Saturday, and Sunday right now.
Council President?
Councilman Di Lorenzo?
Yes, Attorney Calabro, I have a question. How many chefs and cooks work there at night?
How many chefs and cooks there in total?
No, yeah, well, that work on any given night, on Friday night or Saturday, how many are there?
I believe they have in total, they have like 6 or 7 cooks and chefs there.
And how many patrons would you say that they would see on any given Friday or Saturday night?
In total throughout the whole evening? Is that your question, sir?
Sure.
I believe about 700 to 800 patrons on a weekend.
And they're doing that with 3, 4, 5, 6 chefs and cooks?
No. They have 6 or 7 chefs.
Chefs. So
correct.
The chefs all work on a Friday and Saturday night?
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't hear that.
The chefs, they all work on a Friday and Saturday night?
Yes, correct, they do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Fire Marshal Horan and then Chief Ruggiero.
Hey, guys, I've been out to this establishment, I think it's been 8 times in the past year and a half. And not once have I found overcrowding at this establishment. I can attest that what I've witnessed, I've been there at midnight, I've been there at 12:30, whatever it is. The kitchen's open, they're running a restaurant. Is it loud in there? Inside the restaurant, yes. Outside, I don't hear anything. They manage the front door pretty well. They bring people inside and they kind of hold them in the foyer downstairs, and they don't crowd the egress stairwell, which I was pretty pleased with. They have a crowd manager, which any restaurant is required to have. Again, yes, there is hookah. I advise them on safe practices for using hookah. But as far as that, that does not meet the letter of the law of a nightclub. I know you guys keep saying nightclub, but it does not meet the letter of the law of a nightclub. There's no cover charge. So as far as the fire code is concerned, that is a restaurant.
Colonel Ruggiero?
Thank you, Mr. President. First, Mr. Calabro, I'd like to address one of the comments earlier on that you had had mentioned in regards to not filling the detail on any specific evening. So we have corrected that issue where we now have flexed officers' hours, which means they are now allowed to take the detail in 2-hour increments from 10 to midnight and then have a relief come in from midnight to 2, where prior to we were having some overlap issues. So we loosened up our rules and regulations to accommodate having officers there to cover. And I can say that over the next few weekends, we do have each of those nights filled with details. If you're not familiar with the area, we're getting phone calls from residents on Easter Avenue, and that's across the street, crossing Middle Spring Avenue and up quite a few yards, that there's loud music coming from the establishment. I'm reading a general law. Nightclub means a place of public accommodation, which in general is characterized by the following: provides entertainment by a live band or recorded music generating above the normal sound levels, has a primary source of revenue and general sales of beverages and any kind of consumption on the premises. Food is if served, is considered a secondary attraction. I think the folks also on Elena Street would argue that it's more of a nightclub than it is a restaurant, because again, these are the folks that we're hearing pretty much 4 nights a week, as the council members are hearing as well, that there's a lot of disruption, there's a lot of trash, public urination. We had a phone call from an older woman. She heard some rustling outside, and there was a gentleman urinating under one of her windows in a bush, and she got nervous and obviously called 911. And once we got there, the gentleman kind of went into, to the crowd of folks leaving, so we couldn't determine who it actually was. So we're getting calls pretty much, especially during the Thursday through Sunday timeframe nightly, even when officers are there. We had a call for a weapon that was shown to patrons leaving the restaurant on one occasion. And again, as Councilman DiLorenzo mentioned, I'm looking at 13 pages of initiated calls that we've been responding down there.
Council President.
Go ahead.
So I don't have a solution to the issue, but I want to identify, I think, a problem that I've seen in my day job and something that I want to identify here. What I think you can find in all of the laws and statutes and regulations, you can find numerous different definitions of what a nightclub is and what a nightclub is not. And people tend to have different opinions on what makes something a nightclub and what makes something a restaurant. One thing that I found is that one of the ways in which a lounge or a nightclub is different than a restaurant. And part of the reason why you don't have some of these issues at a traditional restaurant as opposed to a nightclub or a lounge or whatever you want to call it is when you go to a restaurant, you eat and then you leave. So what you have happen is people come in staggered and then they leave staggered. So at the end of the night, you might have 2 or 3 tables that are leaving, but you don't have the whole establishment leaving. Mm-hmm. And what happens at some of these other places, and again, they may not meet the traditional definition of a nightclub. And I'm not suggesting it is or it isn't, but I want to identify what one of the problems is. And frankly, what the reason why I don't think valet helps the situation is when you have something different than a restaurant, and again, you can call it whatever you want, is you have people going in and they may be eating. And frankly, all the information that I've seen based on the evidence that we've had here, what I see online is they do have a full-blown food program and it actually looks very good. But what you end up what I also see happening and is there is a secondary attraction at the location. So people go in, they eat, and then they stay. Now that's great. And I'm happy that they're doing a big business. But what that does is at the end of the night at 1 o'clock or 12:45, you have everybody leaving at the same time because everybody's still there at the same time. So what ends up happening is that you just have more people. So even if everybody leaves and they're just talking to each other, that's going to be loud. And the reason why I say the valet doesn't help is valet is a wonderful tool when valet gets a few people coming out at a time. Valet doesn't help a situation when you have 2 valet guys and you have the whole establishment emptying out at the same time. Because now what you end up happening is instead of all the people being inside, they're all standing on the front step, all waiting for their car. And I've actually seen it where that causes massive problems. Knock on wood, it doesn't seem to have caused an issue here, but that's going to be a problem at some point. I can guarantee it, because you have all these people outside waiting for their cars, who gets pissed off, who's been drinking. So, the other thing that happens, and this is something that I've heard consistently with this particular location, is people being in the establishment later than 1:30. And I think you were on in the waiting room or on the call, Attorney Calabro. But one thing that I think is unequivocal is the state law is very, very clear. Everybody has to be out of the establishment at 1:30. Employees, cooks, patrons, doesn't matter. Everybody's got to be out. So, and part of the reason why I think what is happening is causing additional issues is when you have everybody leaving at 1 o'clock, you have a lot more to clean. If people are leaving at staggered, those tables are already clean. So you may have 2 or 3 tables to clean up, but you're already getting ready. So I think part of the issue that has been happening, and I think it's causing multiple different problems. One, you have the large crowd, which is causing noise. 2, you have too many people inside till too late, which is not allowing an appropriate amount of time for cleaning. And then you have people kind of walking into the neighborhoods and because they're parked in different areas. Or frankly, you might even have valet going into the neighborhoods trying to get the cars, which is causing problems. So I say all that, and I started this by saying I don't have the answer, but I think I have identified, and I think we can identify an issue. And I'm hoping that at the very least, because it's been identified, maybe we can come up with a plan to deal with it. So, and I said this to the last establishment that was in here. If you can't get your employees out by 1:30, then you have to close earlier. 1:30 is the absolute latest time. I know for a little time, okay, you're trying to figure things out. 1:30 is it. And so if you have to close at 10 in order to get everybody out at 1:30, unfortunately, you have to close at 10. So I would just try and think about that and try and figure out what a solution is, because I think that is causing a large amount of the issues. So you can take it for what it's worth.
Councilman Martone, I'd like to say something, Mario. Mario, in Providence, maybe Mr. Calabro can answer this as well. If you were to change those times from Hollywood into 787 into 12 o'clock instead of 1 o'clock, what does that do? As far as your noise level, your cop level, suppose you were to change it to 12 o'clock, what happens?
Well, I mean, I could tell you it depends. Sometimes that just it moves the noise level and the issues to an hour earlier, which makes some people happy, because at the very least they can go to bed at 12 as opposed to 1. Sometimes it has a significant impact on the business because people won't go there because they're only open till 12 as opposed to 1. There's a whole lot of things that happen, and it kind of depends on the facts and circumstances as to what the actual impact is, at least from my perspective.
If I could address a couple of things that Councilman Martone had brought up. One of them was how long people were staying there. Councilman Martone, you had asked that. And my client advises me that on parties of 5 or less, she has a 1.5 hour time limit at the table. And parties greater than 5, she does have a 2-hour time limit. I can appreciate, Councilman Martone, what the points you're making, and I will sit down with her and look at videos and try to address that, because I can appreciate what you're saying and in trying to work this out, because I've worked with you in the past in Providence. So, I do understand that they do have to be out by 1:30. And if there's another mechanism to make sure that that's happening, we'll sit down and work it out as I have, in the past. But I just wanted to let you know that there are those time limits. And also, as the fire chief had pointed out earlier, as far as the valet goes, what they try to do is not funnel everybody out to the front of the club. And they try to keep everybody inside and let them out as their cars are getting ready, to eliminate exactly what the council's concern is, and that group of people sitting out there waiting for their cars. And I believe that the chief actually touched on that a little bit, but just to elaborate on that, they try to let people out slowly to avoid exactly what your concern was, Councilman.
Gentlemen, if you will, we had a disturbance with the folks out in front of the establishment last week, waiting for a valet to get their vehicles to the front of the parking lot. And Councilman DiLorenzo, to answer your question, backing up an hour, that would mean the trash, the public urination, the parking issues, and the noise would be still there just an hour earlier. The call is going to continue to come in to us. We're going to continue to send our officers down there and deal with the problems as well. But I will say one thing, as in speaking with the fire marshal, the capacity level has been in ordinance, but as we've mentioned thus far in both of these establishments, it's the outside issues in the residents, which I think need to be heard. And they have some legitimate complaints. Again, going down and looking at the trash on Rockwell, I definitely would not have wanted any of my kids kicking a ball around with the broken glass, used condoms, and different things that were strewn all over the street. So something definitely needs to be addressed at both of the establishments.
I apologize, I'm having some trouble with my Zoom here. Ralph, at this time, I'd like to hear from any members of the public that would like to speak. Again, we've heard a lot of this testimony, so and obviously you can see we're trying to, work on it. So if anybody would like to speak now, but just keep it, brief and to the point, because there are a lot of neighbors that are on this call.
Yeah. Carrie coming in, she'll speak in a moment.
Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Before you speak to everyone, just state your name for the record. Thank you.
My name's Carrie D'Antuono, and I live on Easter Street, which is the street directly across from 787. And thank you for letting me speak, by the way. I will keep it brief. I know everything I'm going to say is completely redundant. We've been having problems. This is a long time now. Some weekends it's okay. Other weekends it's mass chaos down there. The loud music, the screaming on the balcony, people eat outside on that balcony. She made it look very nice. I thought when they came in, I said, oh, somebody's going to occupy the building. It looks beautiful. She put the plants up, but they scream out there. They're screaming all night. They're hollering, they're singing. The noise travels, the trash, the traffic, the horns blaring, people whipping around. I can't drive up my road. I'm sure you're aware of all these things. As many videos as you can get of the inside, I can provide of the outside of what's going on. I don't want to split hairs over restaurant versus nightclub, but I will tell you, as somebody that lives here 7 days a week, on Thursday through Sunday, it's a nightclub. I mean, I have people dancing in my road. They're turning their music on in their cars. They're dancing in my road. I know she has no control over that, but this is the crowd that's coming here. So the trash outside, the dumpsters are overflowing every day. I never had a rat problem. I know North Providence has, issues with here and there, but I've lived here 14 years. I've never seen a rat. I've seen 3, 4. a day now because the dumpster is overflowing with trash every day. It's on the ground. I know there has to be some rule for that. And the DJ, you know, the music's loud. You can hear it thumping. My kids hear it. I have 4 kids and they hear it up in their rooms with TVs on. They'll say to me, I can't sleep because my son said one night the house was shaking. So I just, you know, want that addressed. I don't want to put anybody out of business, but it's disturbing our peace. I think I have a right to peace. I know I live near a commercial building. I get it, but I've never had these issues. So that's basically wanted to say, and thank you.
Thank you, Kerry. Ralph, would any other members of the public like to speak?
Are we bringing in Antonio? Antonio, go ahead and speak.
Good evening, guys. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Thanks for having me again.
Might have saw a small one.
So where do I start? Where do I start without being redundant and regurgitating everything we've been talking about for well over a year and a half now?
Anthony, I just asked you to be brief. We're trying to address that here and you know.
I'll be as brief as I can be here, Dino. But just to add a little bit and to conflict with what's been said tonight. It was October 1st, 2019, where Liz Vasquez stood before you, and her quotes here, because you know, over the last few months, I've been able to watch every single town hall meeting, diagnose it, pick it apart, and take notes. I've got 6 pages of notes. I have 6 dozen residents, neighbors who would have loved to stand at a podium and speak in person before you. And I want everyone to know, I want the council to know that actually I refused some signatures because the signatures that I've collected are literally people who are directly affected by this building. I went in a rectangle around the building. I've had people in the town approach me and say, I drive by, I see what's happening. This is not the right town. This is not the right business this is not the right town for a business like this. They wanted to sign, and I refused to take signatures from people who were not directly affected by this. I could have went around the entire town and got 1,000 signatures from every district to say no nightclubs, but I didn't. I got signatures from people who can't sleep, who have been contacting you all, contacting the police, surprised that nothing's been done, can't believe it's still happening. It was March 3rd, 2020. It was the very first meeting I had attended, and it was the very last meeting that wasn't on Zoom. And I was promised that night that the town was going to keep this business on a short leash, and assured me, give it 30 days, we'll take care of it. It's been 400 and some odd days, and it's still the same issues. What the valet and the security has done, as far as keeping the back parking lot at bay, has caused the attendees to spill out into the neighborhoods. On a Friday, Saturday night, I'm watching her customers walking from streets, 3-4 streets away, walking through the neighborhoods to get there because they're avoiding the valet. I'm seeing the front parking lot over capacity, the back parking lot over capacity, 4, 5, 6 nearby streets, cars lining up all over them. So to hear from the fire marshal that they're not over capacity is boggling. I've asked several times. I haven't gotten a straight answer even tonight on what their capacity is. I do know from experience that the capacity is probably one number with tables and chairs and another number without tables and chairs. So I'm assuming that tables and chairs must be being moved to accommodate those numbers. And again, in that first meeting, October 1st, 2019, Mario Martone said, are you going to move those tables and chairs? And she said, and I quote, honestly, I want to leave it the way it is so I don't have that club crowd, quote unquote, so people don't think it's going to be dancing and all that. She's been nothing but, I mean, she's blatantly lied to this council and to this neighborhood and to this community. I think a lot of us are fed up what's going on there. Like I said, I have pages and pages and pages of notes. I can go on for 2 hours about this. the time to strike was last February. Mario said that he was wary about issuing a 1-year license because of issues that could happen with having a full license. You gave her, 3 or 4 months. She had a review in February. The February review said the only attendee was the mayor, saying that, he wanted to aim before he shoots and all that. Well, that next month, that March meeting, 6 of us residents went in. As far as I knew, that temporary license had been expired, and somehow she was granted a full year license anyway. So, I mean, this is long overdue. Everything that they've attempted to curtail, to curb, to keep this place at bay. And again, this petition, it was not to close this business down. None of these 6 dozen signatures are saying pack it up and get them out of here. It's, we understand they want to operate as a restaurant and a lounge. They're able, we're comfortable with them being there, but get rid of this nightclub crowd that we were promised we weren't going to have. We don't have this, like everyone's been speaking, we don't have this issue at the 100 other restaurants in this town. Okies did fine. Jackie's Galaxy. There's neighbors, there's homes right across from Jackie's Galaxy. They have a full liquor license. They have a great bar. They have people sitting at their bar every night, but their quality of their food, the service they're putting out is what everybody's going there for. They don't have issues with people in the parking lots, in the neighborhoods. They're not. So I've read 107 negative reviews on this 787, and they're all saying the same thing. And I don't want to quote each and every one of them, but you can look this up on the internet. Things like, let's see, if you're looking to get a few drinks and hookah, then this might be your place. On the other hand, if you're looking to get good, authentic, quality Puerto Rican food and good service, well, then look elsewhere. There's 100 of these. Talking, a woman saying, I went there with my children, and I really wish they had a smoking and a non-smoking section, because I should be able to sit at a table and eat dinner without having blown smoke in my face. I'm really surprised that the fire marshal has found this place in compliance. Their smoke detectors must not be working if every table has a hookah on it. The balcony that everybody's sitting on has one egress.
Anthony, we're sticking to the license, no commentary on the food quality and all that stuff. We can't have that.
I'm sure it's great food. But my point is, if the food is what everyone's going for, then let them be a restaurant. I'm comfortable with that. If they're not going to be a restaurant, you have to take care of this nightclub issue. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Ralph informed me there is no other commentary from the public. Has that changed, Ralph?
No, sir.
Okay. Attorney Calabro, you've heard.
I didn't get to see myself.
We just had somebody raise their hand again.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, this is Bob DiDonato. Thank you very much, counsel, for allowing me to talk. I'll try to make it as brief as I can.
Please do. Thank you.
I will. So we've been dealing with this since November of 2019. We've had several meetings. The concerns are still there. The efforts on Liz's part, and I will say that Liz has made a lot of effort in trying to mitigate these issues. She has hired the police detail. She's hired the security. She's put on the valet. So she certainly has made efforts. But I mimic my neighbors in terms of this being a nightclub. So we talked earlier about the cameras and reviewing what's on the tape. I know that Liz put those cameras in about 3 months ago. She also has cameras outside as well as inside on the backside. I live on Verde Street. So I can tell you that the quality of my life has certainly gone down since the beginning of this thing, because I'm up in arms every single weekend when there is nothing but crazy activity out here. And what I mean by that is this: the valet, there is nobody on the backside full time watching to see if people are entering into the back lot. And they do. And I can tell you there were 7 vehicles that pulled in on Saturday night alone. Okay. And what happens with that is when they come out, they're loud. Now, we do in fact have police details, but the police detail shows up on Friday at 10 o'clock. In the April meeting, I believe, we said that it was a 9 o'clock stop. That has never happened. Okay. Nor was Lieutenant Jones present for that meeting. So I don't know if that was conveyed to the police department, but it was 9 to 2. They show up at 10. So I've had problems before 10 o'clock. And that was the reason that I had suggested 9 o'clock. That 1 hour makes a big difference. For instance, week before last, I literally had someone pull up in front of my house, directly in front of my house, get out, open his door, and urinate right there. Security came around the corner, caught him. I couldn't run down the stairs fast enough to get out there, and he had already sped off. All right. So these are the kind of things that are going on still.
Council President, I'm sorry to jump in. Can I ask a question? I have a question before I forget. I don't want to.
Sure.
Mrs. DiDonato, I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't want to forget my questions. So what you were just talking about, this was early in the evening or after the close?
No, this actually happened at about 9:10. And Liz was made aware of it by her security, and she was very, very apologetic. Okay, so she was aware that it had gone on, and actually offered to send somebody down with water and soap and wash it. So she didn't create this. Liz didn't create this. This is created by the nightclub atmosphere, let's say, right? And this is gonna it's gonna continue to go on. It has continued to go on. And the people coming in and out. I mean, if I can make a suggestion, put a full-time security guy back here. The police department has had their details from 10 to say 1 o'clock. Okay. And that is on Friday and Sunday. On Saturday, they go up top. And they're on Easter Street. I can see them from my window. I'm high enough where I can see them from my window. Okay. 7 of the last 9 Saturdays. All right. The police detail was not down here. Okay. And that's when you have problems. So, and then they typically take off, the detail typically takes off at anywhere between 12:45. All right. And between 12:45 and 1 o'clock, and they go up top to start herding the people out of the restaurant. They assist with, not out of the restaurant, but out of the lot, let's say. Okay. The people that snuck in the back lot, all right, because you don't have a full-time guy back here monitoring that. All right. They're out here. All right. And they're causing problems. They're causing noise. So it can be mitigated if you had full-time, whether it be police detail, whether it be security. It needs to be looked at, and again, I mean, this is frustrating for all of us. I've lived here 56 years. I've lived through Okies. You guys have heard me. I don't mean to be redundant, and we've never, ever had these problems. This is a nightclub. I said it in the very second meeting. Okay. And I will say that Liz has made a lot of effort in trying to mitigate this, but this problem is going to continue unless you have full-time monitoring out back here, up top. And one last thing I'll say, in the April meeting, it was also said, I believe, that if another police detail was needed, they had to put an additional detail on, but that the one that was stationed in the back was not to be pulled. And that's what's been happening on Saturday. So there are things that we can do, all right, to make this a whole lot better. But it's just frustrating, gentlemen, because this has been going on since November of 2019. That's a long time, and we're still talking about it. That's all I got.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Ralph, you said there was another member of the public with their hand up.
Yes, sir. I'm bringing them in now.
Okay.
Giashani, go ahead and speak.
Hey, can everybody hear me clearly?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great day. I do agree with, I believe it was Bob who just spoke before me.
Can you state your
and I
name
just
for
want,
the record?
oh, sorry, Giashani La Paz.
Thank you.
I believe last time I spoke, my major issue, like I said, wasn't with Liz directly. It was with the clientele. And basically my fear, my issue is, which was in the past, was the fact that, I have a child, he's young, he has an autism diagnostic. And last time when I was outside playing with him, we had somebody walk into our backyard, and we did actually make a police report. This was around last summer. My major concern is we haven't even seen the full extent of how bad things could be, because we are just now starting to open up our economy. As COVID is starting to dwindle, and as our economy starts to open up, things will get crazier. We are now going to enter a full-blown summer where everybody gets to have the freedom to do how things were prior to COVID. And that's my issue. I would also agree in the fact that I would like to have a detail in the back also, because I feel like that would help mitigate things, along with, a potential of having somebody else break into my backyard. I don't want to have to wrestle somebody again and, then have my father call the officers to have them take him away and make sure that that man is situated who broke into our backyard. And that's really what my concern is also with that.
Council President.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Martone, go ahead.
Can I just ask a question? So my understanding is that there has been details at this location, at least from time to time. And my question, I guess, to Mr. La Paz, if you can answer it, is is there a noticeable difference when there's a detail there versus when there's not? Because I guess I'm not understanding exactly what the impact is when they have a detail versus not having a detail, because I want to make sure that our our efforts are focused in the right direction.
No, absolutely, sir. And to give you more clarification, the first time where the first issue where I had to actually wrestle a drunk person to the ground, there was no detail. They haven't started having a detail system yet. The second time there was a detail, but I believe there was only one. I actually got to say hello to him. I got to say hi to him, asked him if he wanted a coffee from the gas station. I come back from the gas station, and then the detail was, I believe, was on the top of a hill, which is their front entrance. And that's where I had two men come out who were urinating. And they basically jumped over my car and then into the back lot and basically disappeared into the crowd. I think there is somewhat of a difference when detail is there, depending on where the detail is. But as you know, the detail isn't like, omnipresent in the sense that they can't be everywhere. So if they're dealing with one issue, that leaves room for another issue to be either somewhere down the hill or somewhere near the housing areas. And I think that's really where the issue is also, is that either I think one detail may not be enough for so many people.
Okay, Ralph, any other members of the public?
No, sir.
Okay. I think we've heard testimony from the neighbors over the course of several meetings. This, again, I think I stated 2 months ago. I think I've made it very clear where I stand with this place. I'm beyond tired of seeing it on our agenda. I think we've tried to work with it several times. And it just doesn't seem to be working. I'm sure we could come up with a security plan, but I just don't think at this point. I think there needs to be some serious restrictions on the entertainment license, because if it is a restaurant, then they really don't need an entertainment license to operate as a restaurant. You know, you want to have music till 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I'll let the council decide that. You guys let me know. It's not my decision. It's the 7 of us. I want to have a discussion with the council members right now to see, you know, where we stand. What would you guys like to do? You know, I don't mean to put it on Councilman Famagetti and Councilman Amorigi, but you guys have, you know, really taken the bull by the horns here and you know, dealt with the neighbors, tried to work with this place. I give our police department, the colonels really stepped up and helped us out a lot. And I really appreciate your participation in this meeting tonight. It was really helpful. And the same thing for Fire Marshal Horn. Thank you for your testimony as well. I just think, you know, we've heard from the neighbors. We have to help them. And I think you're all willing to at this point. Councilman LaPorcio, I know you have your hand up. You're on
muted, Steve.
Thank you. Sorry about that. In as much as the council for 787, Mr. Calabro, has said that they have, you know, a very good food business, and they are not a nightclub. The main attraction, therefore, in his eyes and probably in Liz's, that they are a restaurant. I've go to many restaurants as well as everybody else. And when I go to a restaurant, I don't go there for music or entertainment. I go there to eat food. So I think what you're saying is right in line. I mean, my personal opinion, why would they have to have music after 9 o'clock? If they're primarily a restaurant and people are going to go there for the food, they'll go there at 9, 10, and 11, music or no music. So I'm not what I'd like to say that I'm thinking right in lines with what you're saying as far as the entertainment license being peeled back.
Can I address the council? I know we're making a lot about the music and whether or not it's operating as a restaurant. I don't know if any of the members of the council have ever been into the restaurant, but we do know that the fire chief has been in the restaurant. We also know that the fire chief stated earlier that he couldn't hear the music from outside. So there's definitely some contradictory testimony here where we have people who live across MSA and then up the side street who are saying that they can hear the music, but we have the fire chief who's saying he's in the driveway and can't hear the music. I don't think that the fire chief has any reason to lie to the council. None whatsoever. I believe he's been the only one that's been inside, and he's telling the council that it's operating as a restaurant. So we're listening to everyone else from the outside who hasn't seen it and who's making statements that are totally contradicted by the one gentleman who has been in the establishment.
Mr. Calabro, if I can sneak in here for 1 second. Not to split hairs about a legal definition of what's what, okay? Regardless of what we want to call it, a nightclub or a restaurant, it does not negate the problem that it has an impact on the neighborhood. So calling it a restaurant does not remedy the problems in the neighborhood, okay? By Marshall Horan's definition that it is a restaurant rather than a nightclub does not cure the impact that it has. It does not cure the testimony that people are saying, that people are urinating in the parking lot, urinating on lawns, running through lawns, being loud in neighborhoods. So assuming arguendo that it meets a legal definition, which I can go through the legal definition, we can debate that. But assuming that it does not meet the legal definition of a nightclub, that doesn't cure it from the impacts that it's having on the neighborhood. So, you know, we can argue back and forth what the category it is, doesn't matter. Let's assume that it is a restaurant. Okay, well, this restaurant is not operating in a fashion that is conducive to a residential environment, which is what we had concerns about from the beginning. So I just wanted to get that out in the open.
Also, Council President, if I may, and no disrespect to Fire Marshal Horan, he's been there sporadically and periodically where Miss Antonio, excuse me if I mispronounce your name, Mr. Di Donato and Mr. Lopez, along with Antonio, are residents that are there 7 days a week at all hours of the evening, hearing the disruption that's going on into the neighborhood. So you had mentioned that you're getting one or two different sides of the stories. I would say the residents that continuously call our agency, along with the council members, have quite a strong ground to stand on, where their complaints are legit and they are definitely real. If I may, Miss Antonio, she has video all different nights of the week, all different hours of the week, that proves that there is a loud disturbance coming from that location.
My understanding is though, sir, that you had your men out there with decibel meters on many occasions, unbeknownst to my client, and it was always within limits.
And I will say this, you are accurate. And I don't think it took very long for the employees of the establishment to get the word that the police were out there with the decimal meters and to keep things low. Again, we're out there with those decimal meters sporadically and periodically, where the neighbors and the residents are there continuously, and their concerns are definitely merited here.
Mr. President,
Who's speaking? I'm sorry, my audio's going in and out.
it's me, it's Kenny.
Ken, for some reason you keep popping on and off my screen. I apologize. Go ahead,
Can you hear
Councilman.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
So to build upon the chief's point here, and thank you, Chief, for pointing that out. Attorney Calabro, and this is almost not fair to you because you obviously are new to this, but we've already addressed this situation with the noise. The thing you need to realize is that the way 787 is situated, it's on the second floor. The people who are complaining, most of them live on the second floor of their own homes, either directly behind. When you go across Mineral Spring, both Palm Street, Easter Street, those streets all go up. So what you have is the noise going out directly, in terms of the way the sound waves are traveling, they are hearing it in a way that somebody doing a decibel reading from ground level outside the back or the front of the restaurant wouldn't register it. But again, I think that's almost irrelevant to the point. And as Councilman Famiglietti said, is what we need to deal with is the actual issue. And the issue is the patrons spilling into the streets all at the same time around 1 a.m, urinating on people's lawns, driving over people's lawns, hitting parked cars, playing music in their cars, provocatively dancing at 2 a.m. We have the videos. I will admit I've never been inside the restaurant, but I have personally, and I know a few others have, parked outside the restaurant at closing time. And I've seen all this with my own eyes, taking my own photographs. So it's a real issue. And this is what we need to address, not splitting hairs over, is it loud inside? Is it not loud outside? I think Liz has done certain things to rectify the issues, but it's not rectifying the larger issue, which is literally a threat to public safety, as Mr. LaPaz has already detailed for us. So I like where, Mr. President is going with the restrictions he's mentioning, and I'm fully in favor of really starting to take real action here.
Thank you, Councilman. Would any other council members like to address Attorney Calabro?
Quick question.
Councilman Famiglietti?
Mr. Calabro, the security detail that's there, I know that Chief Ruggiero said there was a firearm issue. Are they actively taking steps such as wanding to make sure that doesn't take place?
I believe, and the chief can correct me if I'm wrong, but I did talk to my client about that incident. That incident did not take place inside the restaurant. There was never a firearm inside the restaurant. My understanding is that someone retrieved a firearm from a vehicle and brandished that firearm. Also, as soon as that happened, my client took action with her security team to make sure that no one else spilled out from the club. They left everybody inside the club so that no one else got out and let the police officers do their job. And my understanding was that the officer that did show up commended her and her security team for not letting anybody else out of the building while this altercation was taking place.
So are they wanting people now?
I don't believe that they are, but again, the firearm was never brought into the restaurant. There was no firearm in the restaurant. But if that's something that the council wants her to do, I mean, we can absolutely agree to do that. But the firearm was never inside the establishment.
That is accurate.
I'm just gonna make a statement, though. Do we really, do we really want a establishment in town, in the town of North Providence, where people need to be wanted?
Well, that's my point, Mr.
And
President.
I appreciate that, Councilman Finley.
That's where I was going.
Yeah.
And for the record, I have read the reviews online that there is wanding taking place over there. So that's where the genesis of my question is coming from. So again, more of an indication that it's a club rather than a restaurant.
Okay, is there any other questions?
Yeah, Council President, I have a question.
Councilman Matone?
Attorney Calabro, do you know, are they using a security company or are they using in-house security?
I'm sorry, Mr. Councilman Martone, I could not hear you. I'm sorry.
Are they using a security company or are they using their own in-house?
They have a security company. I'm not sure the name of the company, but they do have a security company. It is not in-house security.
Can you get us the name of that company, please?
Yeah, I can. I absolutely can.
Okay.
Okay, would Fire Marshal Horan, Colonel Ruggiero, anyone else like to add anything to the record?
Again, I'm there for a very limited amount of time when I go do my inspections. I'm there for half hour, 45 minutes to get the inspection done. Again, some of the things that I hear about the complaints and stuff, I have not witnessed. That's the only thing I brought forward to you. The capacity is around 250 in that place, just so you guys are aware. And I have witnessed wanding at this establishment, Hollywood, and Dana's Lounge as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilman Martone, the initials of the company is NLS. I'm trying to find out what that stands for, but that's the security company that she's using, NLS.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, gentlemen. What's the council's purview here?
Dino, 1 second, please, Dino.
Councilman Di Lorenzo, go ahead.
Battalion Chief Horan, you said that you've seen wanding at those establishments?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
You go.
Council
So
President.
I got something to say if,
Go ahead, Councilman.
well, for everything I'm gathering, if it's a nightclub, listen, I know, especially me, and all you guys know me when it comes to business, I don't want to hurt anybody, especially when you have money invested. Who wants to get hurt? It stinks when people are somewhat coming after you, for lack of better words. But everything that I'm seeing and I'm hearing, it's a restaurant. I asked them flat out if it was a restaurant. Yes, it is. So do they legitimately need that entertainment license? Does that make everyone happy with them not having that entertainment license without hurting their business? There's a question.
I agree.
Okay, would we, it seems like the purview of the council is to limit the entertainment license. Would we like to test an 11 o'clock entertainment license on the weekends, 10 o'clock during the week? Would that work?
Yep.
Me
Is there-
personally, I would limit it more. But
I say the same. 9 o'clock to me seems sufficient. And listen, we can always amend it, and if things go well, we can increase that and make it go to 10 or 11 o'clock. But if they're doing as well as they're doing with food, I really don't think that should be that big of an issue as a restaurant.
But what I think we have to the problem is that that's their culture. I mean, they're Puerto Rican. They like to listen to music while they're eating. So it's part of the culture. This is what they do. They eat and they listen to music. So will it, somebody posed the question as to whether or not it would hurt the business. It would greatly hurt the business, because that's what people want to do. They want to sit down and eat and listen to music.
For all due respect, Mr. Calabro, the business has to conform with the neighborhood, and the way the business is being run right now is not conforming with the desires of the neighborhood. It is adversely impacting it. So what we're tasked to do is try to work with you and Ms. Vasquez to find a middle ground in that, you know, allow her to operate her business. And I understand what their preferred method is, but clearly that hasn't worked for us.
Okay, so is the purview of the council to limit the entertainment license to 9 o'clock during the week and 10 o'clock on the weekends?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion's been made by Councilman Amorigi. Is there a second? Is there a second?
I'll second it for the purposes of discussion.
Okay, Councilman Martone has made the second. The
I
floor is
my
open.
personal, I think it's a little too early. You know,
I agree. And
So do I agree too. It's too early.
I'd prefer, so this is what my personal thought on it is. I'd prefer 10 during the week, 11 on the weekends, on Friday and Saturday. And the reason I say that is I believe, and I guess I should make it with a caveat. My understanding is they're getting details on the weekends. So my thought process is if there's a detail there, the detail should be able to kind of curb some of the issues that are going on. And so I feel much more comfortable with a later entertainment on a Friday and Saturday when there's a detail there, because presumably they're there, they're going to be watching the crowd, they're going to be listening for the music. And so I think they can take care of any issues on those nights. So that's just my preference would be 10 during the week, 11 on the weekends. And I'd also be fine bringing it back at some point, you know, in the next, we could figure that out, but to kind of reassess. I'm certainly not looking to put it on forever if they can operate responsibly.
So if I may, Mr. President, because I made the motion just to let me respond to that, that logic I'm okay with if there is a detail there every weekend in a detail in the front and the back, because we've seen that the one detail floating in between the two sides is not working. And I'd also like to ask the chief, and I don't mean to get off on a tangent, but I think before the detail leaves, because we asked this before of Lieutenant Jones and unfortunately it didn't happen for whatever reason, they need to verify that every living soul is out of that building by 1:30 a.m. Otherwise, none of this even matters. So I just want to throw that out there.
All right, Councilman Amorigi, would you like to rescind your motion?
Yes, I'll rescind that motion.
Mario, do you want to, or Kenny, either one, make the motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion that we put a limit on the entertainment license, that the entertainment is to cease by 10 p.m. during the week and on, what are we saying as the weekend, Friday through Sunday, and at 11?
11. Okay, motion's been made by Councilman Amorigi. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Martone. Any further questions?
So I guess I have a question for the chief.
Yes.
Chief, I know we heard some testimony with regard to details leaving at 12:45 and that kind of thing. Can we just be certain that the details, you know, aren't going to leave until everybody's gone?
Yes, we can, and I can commit to that, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
And Chief, if I may, and will they also do a walkthrough inside to make sure that the place is actually vacant and not just turning off the lights and pretending to be?
We can also do that, yes.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No. And I will,
Roll
for
call
the record,
I'll do a roll call vote. Okay, Councilman Amorigi,
Yay.
Councilman Martone,
Aye.
Councilman Bacala,
Aye.
Councilman Laportio,
Nay.
Councilman Di Lorenzo,
Aye.
Councilman Famagetti.
Mr. President, just with a statement, I appreciate the council's action. My personal preference, I would like to see it more restrictive, so I will vote nay, but I do appreciate the council's actions and I'm hopeful that this will help.
Okay, and the chair votes aye. So motion pass.
Mr. President, I do have a second motion because I think it's necessary just because of the issues that we've had. I'd like to make a motion that there be 2 details during all of the designated times, one in the front of the building, one in the back, and that the detail is not to end until it is verified visually that everyone has left the establishment, both staff and patrons.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Councilman Amorigi, seconded by Councilman Famagetti. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4, resolution 21-005. A request be made to our General Assembly to take the necessary steps to amend Rhode Island General Laws, section 31-41.1-4 entitled Schedule of Violations to increase the monetary fines for speeding in residential neighborhoods. We have a motion to pass resolution 21-005 to the General Assembly.
So moved.
Motion been made by Councilman Bacala. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Famagetti. Any questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item number 5, ordinance 21-003, Town Council of the Town of North Providence desire to amend by ordinance its existing community comprehensive plan and map with regards to the land use classification of assessors lots 724, 730, 746, 748, and 750 on assessors plat 22B said property bordering Middle Spring Avenue. Mark, we just motion to amend?
Yes, motion to adopt the ordinance on this item and the next item on. And I believe Attorney Shikachi is on the Zoom in case anybody had any questions.
Okay, a motion to adopt ordinance 21-003. Is there a motion? Motion's been made by Councilman Martone. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bacala. Does anybody have any questions for Attorney Shikachi? Okay, there being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, the ayes have it. Ordinance 21-004, Town Council of the Town of North Providence desires to amend by ordinance its existing zoning ordinance and zoning map with regards to the zoning of the tax assessors lots 724, 730, 746, 748, and 750 on assessors plat 22B and abandoned portions of Utica Street and Martin Street from Middle Spring Avenue to Dutchess Avenue as depicted on the plan submitted by the applicant. The premises said property bordering Douglas Avenue. We have a motion to adopt ordinance 21-004.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Councilman Martone. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Bacala. Any questions for Attorney Shikachi? There being none, all is in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Kenny, can you do item number 7? I believe we're on. Set to
Yes,
take
sir.
a rest break, 7 and 8. Thank you.
Sure. Number 7, agenda item number 7, ordinance 21-006. Quote, an ordinance amending chapter 19, article 10, section 1930 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of North Providence entitled No Parking on Certain Streets Generally to provide for certain parking restrictions on Humbert Street in the Town of North Providence. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion is made by Councilman Di Lorenzo, seconded by Councilman Martone. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Agenda item number 8, ordinance 21-007. An ordinance amending chapter 19, article 10, section 1947C of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of North Providence entitled One-Way Stop Signs. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Councilman Familetti. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Laportio. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Agenda item number 9, ordinance 21-008. An ordinance amending chapter 19, article 7, section 1930 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of North Providence entitled No Parking on Certain Streets Generally to to provide for certain parking restrictions on Sunset Avenue in the town of North Providence. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by, I believe, Councilman Laporte. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Martone. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it.
Kenny, ask if there's any hands being raised. I'm missing that part.
I don't see any.
Yeah, I didn't see
I'm
it.
jumping in, sir, if they are. I've been watching for you.
Yeah, yeah, I can see them too. Okay, ordinance, I'm sorry, agenda item number 10, ordinance 21-009. Ordinance to provide for reallocation of fiscal year 2021 town council allotment to fiscal year 2022 expenditure. Do I have a motion to approve?
Well, hold on. Do we have to change this, Mark?
Why do you say that, Councilman?
Because are we so this will not impact what money we put back into the budget tonight based upon the raised discussion? This is just a pure real allocation of what was left over?
Correct me if I'm wrong, the way I followed it was, this is to take the 200,000 from this year's budget we're in and bring it over to next year.
Okay, very good.
When you guys adopt the budget, you'll move this 200,000 around, I guess. It'll fit in. It's gotta be there, I think. I'm thinking financially, it's gotta be there first.
So all we have left over is 200,000 and that's just gonna be put into our line item. Is that
So
right?
that was the number that I thought I was working off of from the prior meeting after certain allocations were given for the property purchase and the paving. I thought it was 200,000 from my notes, unless I'm wrong.
Pretty sure that was right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think you gotta, this has to be adopted before June 30th in order for it not to just go into surplus by June 30th. And I think this will bring it over into the next one. And I think your adoption of the budget ordinance will cause that to move around.
Mark, so it doesn't matter. So we don't have to reflect this in the budget that we already passed. Once this gets adopted, it'll just go into that line item and then get added to that town council appropriation or whatever it is. Is that right?
Get added to.
Well, so right now, let's just for the sake of argument, say we got 50,000 from the raises in that line item. And so we passed a budget earlier tonight that says that town council line item is 150,000, 50,000 from the contingency. If we put this in, we don't have to go back and then readjust that council allocate. You know, do you get what I'm asking?
What you're saying. I guess I'd have to ask you a question. Well, first of all, just understand the process for the budget. We had the final budget hearing tonight. That's the final budget hearing, but you still have to adopt the budget ordinance. Okay, there is an ordinance. That's the next step we're gonna have.
Okay.
Now, that aside from the process, I wasn't part of the workshops. I couldn't make the last one, but what did you put into the council contingency for a line item? In other words, did you guys say at the workshops, we're plugging in 200,000 on this contingency line item because we know we're bringing it over? If you didn't, then I'd say to you that this is going to, what you just said, Councilman, add to whatever you put into the line item. In which case, it's not going to affect what you did tonight. So let's say you guys at the workshop said 100,000 in contingency. And then tonight you voted to move that 100,000 around a little bit. Okay, I don't want to talk about one particular one, so I'll use the clerk, you know? So if you moved around that 100,000 you guys stuck in there, you are right, Councilman. This will make that line item 300,000 instead of 100,000, I believe. That's my theory.
No, and so I'm fine with that. My question is that once we pass this ordinance, is there anything else we need to do with regard to the full budget other than have
The
our
44E, you're talking about the other 44E.
So right now, I think that line item in our current budget says 44,800, let's say. It doesn't say 200,000, 244,000. Is that okay, is what I'm asking? Is that fine?
What I'm saying is that I believe so, but what I'm saying to you is we have to adopt a final budget, in which case we can make sure it reflects 244.8.
Okay.
I think.
That was all. I just want to make sure everything was all right.
Gotta get it over there. And
Yeah.
then what I think we need to do is we need to make sure that whatever final budget ordinance is adopted, we need to make sure it reflects it, or we put it on the record when we adopt that budget ordinance, that it is like, say, 244.8. I think in the past, when we've done this, we've done it 2 or 3 times prior to this council, but it was one time we did it on revaluation money. But we'd had that line item in the following year's budget. It was 180,000 at the time. We put reval 180. We just funded it from the prior budget. We didn't increase taxes. So I think we may have to make it 244.8, but we got to get it over there first. And I think we're going to have the opportunity to do so with the final budget ordinance whenever we do that. I mean, at this point, I think what has to happen is Maria has to go back to the state now with the final numbers. And we have to put that into a budget ordinance that's going to have to get adopted at some point, whether it's a special meeting or whatever, but it's going to have to get adopted. So I think we'll be okay, Councilman. But we got to bring the 200 over, and you're right, we may have to adjust that number to higher than 200.
That's fine. Thank you.
Right, so so we taking a vote or?
Yes, the motion's been made and seconded, so now you can.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Dino, are you back?
Go ahead, keep going.
He was here. He left.
You're on a roll.
All right, let's keep him rolling. Number 11, Class F liquor license. Town council consider and vote for the approval of a Class F1 liquor license for At Your Service Bartending LLC for July 30th, 2021 at Meehan Overlook. Is there anyone here from the applicant? Ralph, anyone? Only see a handful of names left.
I don't see anybody by that gentleman's name. No.
Okay, I know in the past we've continued matters where the applicant hasn't been present. I thought I did see him earlier.
Yeah, Mr. Vice President, at the top of the list, Kristen Peliquin.
That's him?
Yep. That's Peliquin is on the.
Okay. Can we bring Christian in?
Bringing him in now, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, wait.
There you go.
Oh, yeah, you're good.
Hi, Christine Peliquin, At Your
Hi.
Service Bartending LLC.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for appearing tonight. Do any of the council members have any questions for Ms. Peliquin? Apparently not. Okay.
All right.
Okay, that being said, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion has been made by Councilman Di Lorenzo. Sounds like it may have been seconded by Councilman Laportio. Any further discussion on the matter? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Ayes have it. Congratulations.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good. All right, I'll keep going until told otherwise. Number 12, peddler vendor license. Discussion and possible action of vote with regard to the approval by the town council of a vendor peddler license for Keith Lambert of New England Novelty to sell at the July 3rd, 2021 Independence Day celebration and possibly other events in town. I believe he's here.
Bringing him in now, sir. Go ahead, Mr. Lambert.
Hello.
Hi, Mr. Lambert. Thank you for joining us. Does any member or do any members of the council have any questions for Mr. Lambert? Okay, no questions. All right, there being none, does anybody have a motion to approve this application?
So moved.
A motion been made by Councilman Laportio. Do I have a second?
Wait, I'm sorry, Kenny, what exactly are you selling here?
Oh, we're just selling the like children's toys and novelties, like the little light up wands and things like that for the kids.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Second by Councilman Famuleti. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you and good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Number 13, victualling license. Town council to consider approval of a victualling license for SR Management Group LLC, doing business as Stella's Suites, 2009 Smith Street, North Providence. Do I have anybody here from the applicant?
Oh, I'm gonna say yes, he must be somewhere.
What's the name I'm looking for?
Shane
It
Pache.
would be Shane
Dave
Pichet.
Pichet.
I did see him on about 5 minutes ago. He was
Yeah, you're right.
busted now.
Maybe you hold it, Mr. Vice President. Maybe he'll come back on.
Yeah, if we can, let's just hold this matter temporarily.
Yeah, he was on about less than 10 minutes ago.
I'm sure somebody here has his phone number. If somebody wants to text him and tell him.
I'll give him a yell.
Okay, we'll just hold number 13. Actually,
He just texted me. He got kicked off. He's trying to get back in.
Okay.
I
Well,
didn't
he's
have to send it.
all right. He's also number 14. So we'll skip forward to number 15, honoring David Westcott. Town council to consider the acceptance of a donation for a memorial plaque in honor of David Westcott. Do I have someone here to speak on that issue?
I believe they were here last month, weren't they, Mr. President?
Yeah, yeah, I believe they were. There is a letter in the packet labeled obviously number 15. So that being said, does anybody have a motion to accept this donation?
Grant the donation.
What's that?
I think you grant the donation. So you
Okay,
have-
I'm sorry
I
about
think you have to pay it. It looks like it's being paid out of the land trust money, I think.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made by, I think, Councilman Laportio, seconded by Councilman Di Lorenzo. Any discussion? There
Great
being
man.
none,
Great guy.
absolutely. There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Number 16, Hidden Heroes Resolution. Laurel Haxton of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation would like to address the town council regarding this Hidden Heroes Resolution. Is Laurel Haxton with us still?
Yeah, I'm bringing her in right now.
Thank you.
Hello, council members. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Laurel Haxton with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on Consuelo Jessup's behalf. We are so thankful that Consuelo is one of our incredible Dole Caregiver Fellows in North Providence. And I know she wishes she could be here tonight, but unfortunately the time overlapped with her caregiver program, which I'll speak to in a moment. I'd like to very briefly share some information on the foundation and how passing a Hidden Heroes resolution will help recognize and support military and veteran caregivers like Consuelo. The Elizabeth Dole Foundation works to strengthen and empower America's 5.5 million military and veteran caregivers. These are the spouses, family members, and other loved ones caring for ill, injured, or wounded veterans. These caregivers are truly America's hidden heroes, and to bring awareness to their unique role, the foundation worked to establish the Hidden Heroes Cities and Counties program, which is a growing network of cities, counties, and states working to find local solutions to better serve military caregivers. This locally tailored program begins with the city passing a resolution or a proclamation to support and recognize military and veteran caregivers in the community. From there, the foundation and our Dole Caregiver Fellows work with each municipality to offer resources, programmatic ideas, and funding opportunities for military caregivers. We have more than 164 participating municipalities, and this growing network really does provide an opportunity for cities, regardless of size or capacity, to bring awareness to caregiver needs and share best practices. I wanted to take a moment to recognize Consuelo's efforts to support caregivers in North Providence and how this work could really be expanded through this resolution. Over the last several months, Consuelo has coordinated a wellness project to connect caregivers and identify and treat caregiver burnout. Through her efforts, every Monday since April, volunteer contributors have provided caregivers with yoga sessions, nutrition classes, health coaching, integrative equine therapy, and presentations on local resources that are available to them. Consuelo's efforts have been so tremendous, and to celebrate and highlight the success of the program, there will be a concluding roundtable luncheon on June 28th, which each of the council members are welcome to attend. We are hopeful that at the conclusion of this luncheon, Mayor Lombardi will be able to sign a resolution making North Providence the first Hidden Hero City in Rhode Island and the 165th Hidden Hero City in the country. On behalf of Consuelo, the foundation, and the caregivers in North Providence, we hope you will join us in recognizing the important role of military and veteran caregivers. Thank you for your consideration of this resolution, and I'm happy to address any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Haxton. And this is just sounds like a great program. And if my colleagues have any questions, I'll certainly open it up. I actually do have a quick question. So us being the first Rhode Island community, potentially, is there certain wording in these resolutions that are standard? Did you have something that you could maybe share with the council to kind of give us a little bit of a template to work with?
Yep, we absolutely have a template resolution that I'd be happy to share with the council. And additionally, you know, if North Providence does sign on, it's something that the foundation would absolutely be willing to help promote. And, you know, whether it's through press release or social media, we'd be happy to share the news.
So, and have you already spoken with the mayor about this initiative?
Consuelo has, yes.
Any of my colleagues have any questions, comments? No. Okay. I'd like to entertain a motion to, I believe specifically what you need is for North Providence, a motion for North Providence to pass a resolution to become a Hidden Heroes community in the state of Rhode Island.
So moved.
Sounds like I have a motion made by Councilman Bacala. A second, who was second?
Me. Second.
Councilman Di Lorenzo seconded. Any further discussion or questions?
Yeah, I actually have one question.
Sure.
Not,
Go ahead,
not
Mark.
to, so once we sign on, is there a cost to the town or?
There is no cost. No, it's just a resolution recognizing the military and veteran caregivers in North Providence. And if the city council ever wants to host an event or provide resources, the foundation is happy to assist with funding said event or providing the resources.
Okay, I'd probably be all right with it even if there was a cost. I just wanted to know.
I'm gonna assume you take donations too, correct?
The Elizabeth Dole Foundation does take donations, yes.
All right.
Okay, Ronnie Bacala.
I'll be the first.
Excellent. Well, generosity is always good. Any further questions, guys? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? There being none, the ayes have it. Thank you for presenting and look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much. And I'll be sure to get the resolution template and luncheon invite over to you all.
Thank you
very much.
Appreciate it.
Attorney
Thank
Welch.
you.
Can I just ask one question of Ms. Haxton?
Yes.
I got on the paperwork you gave, the email address says lhaxton at Elizabeth Dole Foundation, but it doesn't say .com, .org, .whatever.
.org.
.org. Okay, I'm gonna send you an email now from my email, and then you'll have my email to send me back that template, if you could.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
President.
Thank you. Have a good night. Okay, we'll go back now to number 13, victualling license, because I see Shane. Town council to consider approval of a victualling license for SR Management Group LLC, DBA Stella's Suites, 2009 Smith Street, North Providence. Mr. Pichet.
Hey, good evening, council.
Good evening, sir. Do any of the council members have any questions or comments for Mr. Pichet? No? There being none, do I have a motion to approve this application?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Councilman Di Lorenzo, seconded by Councilman Bacala. There being, is there any discussion? Any
You're good.
questions? I'm doing my best to guess it.
No, I got.
I can't wait till the next person. There being none.
We have enough anyway. Don't worry.
There being none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? There being none, the ayes have it. Congratulations, Shane. Stick around.
Thank you, guys.
Number 14, block party. Shane Pichet to address the council to request a block party at 8 Robert Drive, North Providence, Rhode Island, 02911 for July 4th, 2021. Shane, you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Sure, yep. So I spoke to both John Horn and Tom Jones to notify the police department and fire department about the request
that we had to do a community block party up in our section there in Woodhaven. Both were basically supportive, said there's no issues, and they said if letters were needed, they would send them to the council if requested. Essentially, it's similar to what we did last year. We're just kind of the whole neighborhood got together, our street, particular Robert Drive, and the surrounding areas. But this year we want to formally request that the street be closed to through traffic, because one of the issues last year, we knew it was COVID too, but we just want to make sure that the public safety people are aware of what's going on, so that way kind of everybody's on the same page. But essentially it's going to be food. We're going to have some entertainment up there, and it'll be a good time. And I also wanted to extend the invitation to any of the council members if you'd like to attend the meeting. All of the neighbors have graciously extended that invitation to all of you as well.
I was just going to ask if we were invited. Anybody else have any questions?
No, I just want to say, obviously, all the neighbors all signed off on it, because you're going to close the street and no one's going to worry. So you have 100% participation, I'm assuming, correct?
I would say we have 110% participation this
Okay.
year. Everyone's looking forward to it. So yeah, very excited.
Excellent. Love seeing stuff like this happen. Any further questions for Shane? Anybody have a motion to approve this request?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Councilman Laportio. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Bacala. Any further discussion or questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. Congratulations, Shane. Good luck, and hopefully we'll see you there.
Thank you, gentlemen. We hope to see you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, last few items. Number 17, resignation letter. Receive a letter of resignation to be accepted with regret from Mark S. Tanzi from the Historic District Commission. I'll just quickly read this into the record, as is usually the case. This is from, again, Mr. Tanzi. Dear Marianne, please accept this as a formal resignation of my position on the board of the North Providence Historic Commission. The commission has no suitable authority to enforce standard historical preservation guidelines in our neighborhoods. The recent debacle regarding the vinyl siding and previous enclosure of the front porch 2 years ago of the historic house on Olney Ave, serving as only one example of the commission's complete lack of any legitimate or legal influence. The maintenance of residential properties in our town has suffered. I have been a Fruit Hill resident since 1968 and have seen many homes in my own neighborhood deteriorate through the years with no effort to preserve these once well-kept and high-quality houses. The town seems to place a much higher value on developing every possible square foot of land with still more housing than upholding the integrity and property value of what is currently in place. More low-value buildings are erected with the cheapest possible construction approach. Where's the planning board? Where's the vision? We have become an urban extension of Providence, no longer the suburban oasis of years past. My intention when I joined the commission was to make a difference and volunteer my time and efforts to affect positive change. Unfortunately, this town does not share my priorities. Regretfully, Mark S. Tanzi. Do I have a motion to accept Mr. Tanzi's resignation?
So moved.
Motion's been made by Councilman Di Lorenzo. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Bacala. Any further or any discussion or questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it.
With regrets, I should say. I'm sorry. With regrets, we accept it.
With regrets, absolutely. Hate to hear that. That being said, we have some appointments to do. 18 board appointments, town council discussion and possible vote with regard to appointments to be made to the following board. Historic District Commission, see letter and resume from James A. Loeffler. The letter and resume should be in your packet, which I'm sure you saw, very extensive. So do I have a motion to appoint Mr. Loeffler to the Historic District Commission?
Moved.
So moved.
Who made that motion? Laportio? Okay, all right. Motion has been made by Councilman Laportio. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Martone. Any discussion or questions? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it. And I believe this is the last item, 19.
Yeah, it always
Committee.
is.
It wouldn't have been tonight. 19, Claims Committee report. Town Council discussion and possible vote with regard to the Claims Committee report to be presented by Councilman Bacala. Ronnie?
Gentlemen, if you'll notice, there is nothing attached to your Claims Committee report because this week got away from me and I didn't send it to Troy. We did have a meeting on June 14th. Present was myself, Councilman Martone, Councilman Di Lorenzo. We had 4 items. One we did pay out. It's going to be for $85. And mind you, will get a copy of this in your email tomorrow. 2 of them got sent back for more information. We want verification on some stuff. And one of them went to Anthony Galone because it has to do with a slip and fall and everything. That's definitely out of our purview. So it's going to be a lawsuit. So with that verbiage I just gave you, that is what is going to be on the Claims Committee report. I'd like to make a motion that you accept the Claims Committee report as going to be submitted tomorrow. If that's okay with Attorney Welch, because I don't know if that's possible, but that was all the verbal I could give you. I got all my notes in.
That's fine. Motion in a motion to accept the Claims Committee report based upon your representation. Sure.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
So that is the motion on the floor by Councilman Bacala. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Martone. Any questions or discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. I just personally would like to thank everybody. Obviously, there was a lot of heavy lifting tonight. 787 is in the district of myself and Stefano and Dino as at large, and it's really been a long haul. And thank you guys for being so diligent and helping us out with that. That being said, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion
Hey,
made by
listen, Dino, Ralph, once we get off the line, I want to speak to Dino if I can. Once we get off the line.
You can't, no, you can't do that.
Can't do that? Okay.
Once the meeting's closed, it closes the private too.
Okay, so then I'll talk to you.
You need a cell number?
Do
Is
I
he
have a
gonna
second?
answer the phone? That's the question. Is he gonna answer the phone?
Motion made by Councilman Familetti. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Martone. Any discussion on there being none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All those opposed?
Have a good
All
night.
right, ayes have it. Have a
Good
good
night,
night,
guys.
guys.
Gentlemen, have a great 4th if I don't talk to anybody, but I'm sure I will. But please have a great 4th of July. God
You
bless
too.
America.
You too.
Likewise.
Make sure you have your flag, Ronnie. Make sure you put your flag.
Oh, don't worry, I got it.